Hello friends, welcome back to Cyberscripters. In this session, we are going to look at how do we handle files in Python or how do we do file operations, maybe reading a file, writing a file or some other file operations on a file. So let's just go ahead and look at how do we do that. First thing is you all know what is a file. File is a data stored on a disk with a reference, right? So file is just a reference. So when you store something, let's say a.txt on your hard disk, right? So that is stored in the file, and a.text is basically a reference that is used to access that file. So now in Python or any other language, if you want to work with a file, you have to first open it. When I say open it, basically what it does is it looks for that file. If it finds the file, it creates an object, file object, which you use as a handle to access that file. So basically, you need an file object. Now, the file object in Python can be obtained using open call. So you call this open function, you pass on the file name and the access mode. Now, what is the access mode? Access mode is basically whether you want to read a file, you want to write a file, you want to append to a file, or either you want to open a file for read and writing both, or writing and reading both. So that is what is access mode. So it is passed simply as R or R plus if you want to read the file. So if you want to just open in read only mode, you pass R. If you want to open it in the mode where you can read or write to the same file, you can open it as R plus. Same is if you want to write to a file, you open it with W. And if you want to append to a file, to an existing file, and you want to append new data to it, you open it with A. This is the example. So F is a variable, and we are saying an open. We pass on the file name and the access mode. So if we just pass the file name, it will try to find that file in the current directory. If you want to access file in some other directory, you have to pass the full path name. Okay, once the file is opened, it returns a file object, and you can use it to for different operations. And once we are done, we have to make sure that we close it. So now let's just go ahead and go to our PyCharm and see how this file operations would be performed. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create a new file. Let's call a file as file ops. Okay, now as I told you, we need to first call open, right? So basic file open and read. So let's call our variable reader. Reader is equal to open. Yeah, I have already have a file called my test data.txt, and we'll open it in read mode. Now that's it. That has opened our file. Let's just go ahead and print what is the type of the object that it returns. The type reader. Let's just go ahead and run it. File not found or error. Okay. I think I'll have to create a file. So let's just quickly go ahead and create a file. I'll tell you what's happening here. But let's just create a file called my test data.txt. And we need to open it in write mode because we want to write something. Let's say for I in range 25. I'm just creating a file with random data because for now we are not interested in data that the file is having. I will be explaining you all these things later, but for now, let me just create some data. Let us comment this out for now. Okay, so I guess we should have file now. Let me also put it in a function so it does not keep executing every time. That create temp file. Okay, now let's see if we can find our file. Yeah, so now you see what is happening. It found the file now and it created this reader object and it is of type io.textio wrapper. This is not important for now for you, but you should know what kind of object you are working with. So you should always have that inside. Okay, now we have got our text IO wrapper. Let's see what we can do with it. Now, let's write our try and then print. So now, once you open a file for reading, you have multiple options to read it. So you have at least three functions that you can use to read a file. One is read line, and another is read lines. So there is very small difference between line and line. So this one is, but it makes a lot of difference. We'll start with read. We'll see how does read work. Let us write our except and we don't want to do anything here for now and we need final wherein we would close this reader. See, one thing you need to understand is a good program always make sure that all the resources that it is using must be released. If you are using a file, you have to make sure that your file is getting closed once you are done. So always use a try finally block or use a with statement that we are going to look later in the video. For now, we are going ahead with try. Actually, we don't need this as well. If you want, you can put it, but this code is also fine. We want to make sure that we close the file. Now let's just go ahead and print it. So this is the data that we have in our file. So when you say read, basically what read does? Read reads entire file at once. So it is reading entire file in one go. This is important only when you want to read from a file and write onto another file. See, I'm reading the entire file and I'm writing onto another file. But you have to make sure that your file is not too big because I have seen in my professional experience that if you execute this kind of statement, it reads entire thing in memory. And if your file is like very big, a 1 gig file or 2 gig file, then it might, if you don't have enough memory, it might sometimes crash also. So this is one way of reading a file. You just say read and it reads your entire file. Now let's look at other way of reading file, that is read lines. Let's print reader.read lines. Let's see what we get. So read line basically returns you a list of each item is one line. See, this is my first line, second line, third line, fourth line, and so on. So you can access it using the way you access regular list. So I can say for line in reader dot read lines print line. So we are getting empty spaces because there is slash r slash n. Let's just strip slash n. So this is our file, content of the file. Now, what is the difference between read and read lines? See, your reads entire file at once, while read line is reading one by one. For example, let's say you have a CSV file. You are reading that CSV file, parsing it, and extracting only the required data. In that case, this is very, very useful because you don't want entire data to be read at once. What you want is you want one line, you pass that line, you take that data, maybe create a dictionary or a list out of it, or maybe write somewhere, or you have a database, you just insert the data into database, you read the next line. So as and when required, you are reading those lines. This is really useful. So I have most of the time I have used read lines rather than read and read line. We'll be looking at read line as well. So we looked at two ways of reading a file. One is read, another is read line. Now let's look at read line. Now what does read line do? So read function call is reading entire file at once. Read lines reads the entire file at once, but then it gives you a list which you can work on. While read line reads one line at a time. So if I say print reader dot read line, let's say what I get. I'll get only first line, nothing else, because it only reads one line at a time. So what you have to do is you have to call this function call again and again, and it would read you one after the other line. Let's say I say while reader, and here x is equal to reader dot read line. So I'm reading one line. Let's just print it. Now we don't need this. If x is equal to empty string, then I want to break my while loop. Now let's see what is happening. See, so what is happening is we are reading one line at a time. So when you call read line first time, it reads the first line. When you call it second time, it reads the second line. So that way you have to call this read line again and again to read the entire file. So these are the three major function calls that you can use to read your files. But in my experience, read lines is the most effective and most used. Now, now what we have seen till now is we are opening a file and we are processing it and then we have to close it. It is up to us to close it. But you can use this open statement with statement. Now, in that case, you don't have to worry about closing your files. Your with will take care of it. So I can say with open my text data in read mode as f print f dot read. Now, this see initially when we started with read, we had this read statement, we have this open statement, then we need to have try, and finally we are closing it in close. You don't need all of this stuff if you are using that with statement. And this is the most efficient way of working with files. We are printing the same text data with just two lines of code. So what happens is when you open your file with statement, it takes care of closing it. Even if you have an exception or an error, even then which takes care of closing that file. So you don't have to worry about it. Now let's say you are using which statement and we want to use read lines. So what you can do is same here. See readline uses a list. So I can say for x in f dot read lines. Now this is giving me list. Let's say print x dot strip slash n. Let's see what it is doing. See, I'm getting my file and only with just couple of statements. So this is how you can read your files. Now let's just go ahead and see how to write a file. Writing a file is simple. You open it with mode W. So here we have done the same thing with open my text data. This is the file name. This is the mode. Now this is what I'm just generating dummy data. So just forget about this thing. What I'm doing is I'm creating two loops and I am printing I to the power j. That's it. You can write any data. So let's just, if you want, let's just go ahead and create one more data. So with open new test data.text and let's create it in write mode as a. Now you just have to say with f.write. This is my first line. Oops. F.write. This is my second line and so on. You can write whatever you want to write. Right? Now the good thing is because we are using with statement, we don't have to worry about closing it. Right? Let's slash n new line. Let us just execute it and our new test data is created. Now if you want to append something to it, what you can do is let's say f is equal to open new test data.text and I am saying A. A means, so when you say W, what it is doing is it is creating a new file for you. But when you have an existing file which already has a data and you just want to append to it, you can open it with append mode and it will just append data. That's it. Now, let's look at some other operations on file. Let's say I want to print list of all the files in my directory. How would I do it? So for that, we would need to import OS. So let me just go ahead and import OS because listing of files and directories in OS specific. So those are the function call that are functions that are only available in OS package. So just import it, and now I say directory list is equal to, or maybe file list f list is equal to os dot list directory. Now let's just go ahead and provide a full path. So my path is work area underscore technical slash py projects slash what are the project name, learn Python, right? So this is the full path to the directory I have given. Now it returns me an list. So let's just print f list. Let's just see what it gives me. See, it is giving me complete list of files. If I want to print it individually, what I need to do is for ffin flist print ff. What it would do? It would print all the files in my current directory or the directory that I have provided. So this is how you can print files from your directory. For same thing, there is one more function call available. Let's say flist. There is something called scan dir. So what I can say with os.scan. So scan dir is only available in Python 3.5 and later. So if you are using Python earlier than 3.5, then it is not available to you, right? Let's just copy this string. Let's say dir. Let's just. So what OS scan dir does is it returns you an iterator. See, the list dir function that we used earlier that was returning you a list, but this is returning you an iterator. So what you can do is for ffin dir, you can say print formatted tags directory name colon ff.name. Let's see what it is giving you. So it is giving us, maybe this is file name, not directory name. So this is how you can print all the files in a directory. So if you want to access a list of files in your directory, you can do it this way. If you are using Python 3.5 or later, scandir is more efficient. But if you are using version earlier than 3.5, then listdir is your friend. Now let's say you want to remove a file or rename a file. So if you want to rename a file, you can say, so let's say this is our new list data and new file name. So dot text. So this is how you can rename a file. So now if my new test data is converted into new file name dot text. Let me see if I can see it here somewhere. Let me refresh it if that's. Refresh is not available. I'm not sure, it should be somewhere here only. But this new test file is renamed to. So now if I running it again, see it says that this file is not available because that file is already available. We cannot rename it. Now let me just comment all this stuff. Okay, one more thing. If you want to remove a file, that is also you can do using Python. Oops, what is happening? Okay, so os.remove and you can give new and that just removes that file. See, so when I ran it for the first time because this was available, I was not able to rename it. But here it removed it and everything was fine. Now let's just go ahead and look at a use case. What is the use case where you would need to read a file and work on it? So what we would do is we would take a CSV, we will try to extract data out of it. So a real world example would be, let's just go ahead to BSC Index site. Let's take today's data of all the equities that are traded today. So BSC India gives us a CSV which has script code, script name, today's open, high, low, close, and all that data is available there. So we'll download that file and we'll use it to parse that data. So let's just go ahead and do it. So this is where you go to BSC India and you click on markets. Sorry, you click on equity and then your link called Bhav Copy. And clicking on this link would give you an package, and in that package you will find a CSV. I have already downloaded that CSV and will use it. So let's first see how that CSV looks like. Yeah. So this is how that CSV looks like. What it gives you is this code. Then you have name of this script or the company. Then you have group. We are not interested in group and type, but what we are interested in these four lines, four columns. Maybe open. What was the open today? What was the high price? What was the low price? And what was the close price? So we'll try to extract the six columns out of this file. So we'll extract code, name, open, high, low, and close from this file. And you will see how that is done. So let's go back to our PyCharm and let's see how it is done. Okay, so let's first open that file with open. I already downloaded file and it is C column // users market margin download. So this is my file and let's open it in read mode as F. Now for let's just go ahead and use the read. So for line in F dot read line. So what read line does is it gives you a list. I hope you remember it, right? So let's just go ahead and print line. So we get what we are getting. Let's just go ahead and comment this part because we don't need this right now. Okay, so see, it is printing the entire file right now as is, but we don't want that, right? What we want is we want specific details out of that file. So let's just go ahead and fetch it. So we say details is equal to line dot split comma. See, this is a CSV file. So a CSV file, the records are comma separated. So when I say line dot split, it gives me a splitted part of all my data using comma. Now let's just go ahead and print what we need. So let's say I say print formatted data code. Code is in details 0, comma name details 1. Let's see how does it look like. See what is happening here. We are getting what we wanted. We are getting code and we are getting name of the company. Let's just print rest of the data. So we need open. So open was fourth because we didn't want that group and there was one extra column that we don't need. Let's say high was 5, low 6, and finally close of the day detail 7. Now let's just go ahead and print it. See, out of that comma separated file, we have actually passed the detail that we need. And what do we need for that? Only 4 lines of code. Maybe what you can do is you can create a class with attributes called code, name, open, high, low, and close, and set all the attributes there. And you can create the class object for each company, and you can use the data. So how you want to use the data is up to you. It's up to the design of the program that you are doing. But this is how you can open that file and you can parse the data. So this is a very good use case which you can try with yourself. But what we have done today is we have looked at all the methods that you can use to read files and write to files. And we also looked at the use case. So try for yourself and let me know in comment if you have any queries and comments.